What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Mets'd podcast. We have a super exciting interview today. You guys know him well, manager of the New York Mets. Buck Showalter is joining us today. Buck, first and foremost, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and joining us on the podcast.
Well, thank you. Nobody's that busy. Everybody tries to act like they're all important and busy and can't make time for anything. Nobody's that busy. We all act like we're important and busy. I just closed the door. And now in a few days, we get some warm bodies in here. Might be a little tougher, but this will be fun.
So with the warm bodies in there, how's it feel to be back down Port St. Lucie, back at spring training with the team?
Well, it's almost like we never left. You know, the season, I laugh when people use the expression off season. There's no such thing as an off season. The baseball just flies, regardless if you're active or not. There's just so many things to stay on top of. And, but we're in a good spot in a lot of ways. I love what's going on with the minor league kids down here. I'm really had a chance to get to know a lot of people. It was rapid fire. Billy kid's with me all the time. Epler, he was here 2 weeks longer than I was. And we just, we had the lockout last year. It was tough. And, this year we got the challenge of the WBC, but we'll work through that. But, it's just, I think everybody's a lot more comfortable with each other and the relationships have been forged.
So there's been a lot of stuff going on with the Mets during the winter and coming into spring training. It's a pretty exciting team. So out of all the spring trainings you've been a manager of, where does this one rank in terms of excitement for you?
Well, I don't really handicap a lot. All of them, you go to spring training. That's why I love the spring, is because everybody's thinking best case scenario. That young player is going to pop. The veteran player is going to get back to form. An injured player is going to be healthy. You're always looking at best case scenario. Then the reality of the season starts, and you're not very good. And this season, everything might appear one way on paper, but it never. You're always a couple of injuries away from things changing. So I think I'm more interested in our depth. I'm more interested at this point in our what ifs. You look at Tyler McGill, you look at some of the injuries we had and the people that stepped in. So we've really got to identify that quality depth. I know Billy Epler in the front office have been very adamant about the what ifs. It's something I use all the time. That's what we're after. That's the long answer. I've had some coffee, but go ahead.
You mentioned the kids a few times. You mentioned the depth. What have you seen from some of the more notable prospects that maybe the fans are aware of? Francisco Alvarez, Brett Baty, and Mark Vientos, even just in the short couple of days you guys have been in camp.
Well, we haven't been in camp yet. They're here. Believe me, they're here. Guys, keep in mind, you know what a prospect is, right? A prospect is a prospect. Until they impact the major league club, I kind of chuckle all these lists that say this guy's the best prospect and this team has the best farm system, and those people weighing in on that. It's a shot in the dark. Trust me. If you're producing one good major league player a year, you're doing real well. It's the biggest jump in professional sports, from the minor leagues in baseball to the big leagues in baseball. The level of pitching, the level of hitters, the best of the best. That's why guys come out of high school and play in the NBA. I mean, LeBron James. Guys come out of college football and are all pro the first year. So baseball, when you start projecting young players, but with that being said, we like our young guys. It's not a matter of if, it's kind of when in our mind. So, I'm more looking at the guys that may not be household names right now that people aren't talking about. There's a lot of guys that aren't making some of these so-called expert lists that are as good, if not better, prospects. One of the keys for an organization is identify your prospects and eliminate your suspects. And sometimes I call them fake prospects. So buyer beware.
Of course. This year, during the season, there's going to be a lot of new rules impacting the game. Which rule do you think you're looking forward to the most?
Well, none of them. Looking forward to, Well, I guess I'm looking forward to the no shift. I think it should help some of our guys. I think a big adjustment is going to be these guys getting off on deck and getting on. I think the first 2 weeks with the pitch clock is going to be a challenge for the hitters, not for the pitchers that much. And I think guys who chase velocity, pitchers that are always chasing the throw harder, are going to have a little more trouble when you're throwing more rapidly. I personally would like to see them turn the clock off the last couple of innings, but they're not going to do that. And And I'm more interested in the pace of our game and the tempo of our game. I don't think people come to a game because of how long or how short it is, but I know people at home on TV, it matters. And I don't think people come to a game because Lindor's walk-up song is such and such. But they didn't ask me. But it'll be, could you imagine watching a football game without replay or baseball without replay? Now you kind of look at some of this stuff and you always confuse change with a lack of respect for tradition. And it's up to us to embrace those things. And one of the things we're going to do in the spring is get our guys ready for what's ahead of them.
We spoke to Max last year, and he did mention specifically what you just said, that he thinks that it's going to be sneakily somewhat of an advantage more for pitchers than hitters in that pitch clock. He wants to find a way to weaponize it. But while we're speaking of rules, you made waves last year just with your expertise of the MLB rulebook, especially that play in Miami where Brandon Nimmo sat down in the baseline and then wound up everyone being safe, and we had a rally come after that. So where does that expertise come from, and where did you find the inspiration to teach that rule specifically in spring last year?
Well, it's kind of like being an umpire or a referee. I refereed college basketball, started out in low 8th grade, middle school, worked my way up to, some college conferences. And, you had to learn the rules. And if you're going to manage a team, I don't know them all. I learn some nuance every year, and I try to take advantage of them, and I want our players to. But shouldn't the players understand the rules of the game that they're playing? And I think there's always a lot of rules out there that, you can, I don't want to say take advantage of, but knowledge is a great equalizer. So, and I've always had a curiosity about it. And if you're in an instructional league and you're in winter ball and you're in all these different leagues I was fortunate enough to be in, you see things that people have never seen. I mean, I saw a triple play and the ball never hit leather. It can happen.
We talk about, the team looking forward into 2023. There's been some new guys that have been brought in on a staff as well, and someone that's new this year, the bullpen coach, Dom Chidi. Talk about your relationship with Dom and what it means to have him be a part of the staff.
Well, first of all, hitting coach with Jeremy Barnes and the pitching coach Hefner, Jeremy, they had a lot of input on this. We put 4 or 5 candidates in front of, and I know Jeremy weight carried a lot with who we hired. And I think we all came to the conclusion that we were very fortunate to have somebody with, Dom's done everything. He's been an assistant GM. He's been a major league coach. He's been a farm director. He's been a scouting director. You're talking about a guy that has been around. And he lives about 2 miles from the St. Lucie complex, which worked out great. But Dom has really impacted a lot of lives along the way, and he's a great compliment to Jeremy. And you can tell right now down here they're connected at the hip, and the players are really going to benefit from their partnership.
That's great to hear from our perspective, because we see what Jeremy Hefner can do, and he's basically a wizard with pitching. But another change to the coaching staff this year is Eric Chavez being promoted to being your bench coach. So how'd that decision come to be, and what's Chavez's role going to look like this season?
Well, I wouldn't call it a promotion. I would call it, every move we make is kind of, if we do something like that, it's side to side. Because, if Joey doesn't do a good job at third or with the infielders or the first base coach and the outfielders with Wayne, I mean, everybody's got a load to carry. And we had a chance to lose Jeremy Barnes, which we thought was an asset for us with Eric. We had a very good hitting situation last year. In order to keep that from happening, we thought we had a chance. Well, we were going to lose him to another club as a head hitting coach. So we took Jeremy and we talked to Glenn. Glenn made this happen because we think with some of the catchers and the potential of Alvarez around the corner, Glenn's job is going to be full time with these catchers. Not that it's not. And he'll continue in a lot of the same capacities, but I think Eric's on a great path of where his career may end up. And I think this is a good stepping stone for him down the road, and another good thing for him. And just about all our guys could do each other's jobs. It's a well-rounded staff. This has probably got a chance to be the best coaching staff I've ever had.
Wow, that's awesome to hear. You've been in a bunch of spring trainings throughout your career. What would you say the biggest change in spring training has been over time?
I don't know. The more things change, the more they stay the same. I've got a very definitive thing that I want to accomplish here, and I want us to feel completely ready. And the only thing that challenges us is the game itself. the biggest change in spring training, probably the facilities are so much better. The travel's better. I mean, I used to have to go from Tucson to Yuma to Phoenix to, I mean, some of these trips. And I think, and, the minor leagues being here, we're getting ready to probably build another a facility for our minor league housing and stuff that our ownership's going to allow at some point. And it's really the last piece we have. I think our complex down here is one of, if not the best in Florida, and we don't have to share with anybody. So it's been a real asset for us. It's about eliminating excuses. Steve Cohen and our front office have done a great job of eliminating a lot of excuses for us not to have success.
You've been part of a lot of spring trainings now at this point in your career. Do you have a favorite memory or favorite story from any spring training you've ever been a part of to share?
Probably not to share. No, spring. I'd say spring's a great time because everybody's so upbeat. They're thinking about the best case scenario. I love the spring. I love getting up at. I don't want to tell you what time I get up and I get here. It's still dark. When I get home, it's dark. All I do is sleep there, and it's a labor of love. I love having a hot cup of coffee when the sun's coming up and walking the fields before anybody's here. Well, with our group, there's a lot of people here, but those are the little things I love about the spring is getting a leg up on things and being ready. So when the players come through that door, the only thing they have to do is prepare themselves for the season. And the last week is tough because you're starting to make some really tough cuts. But for the first 3 or 4 weeks, it's a really upbeat time, and it's a great time for the fans because the players are so accessible and so open. And I challenge anybody, if you're looking to kill some time, come on down to St. Lucie. It's not that expensive, and the players are right here with you.
Since we're on the topic of spring training and warm weather, are you a beach or a pool guy? I know it's a little off topic, but beach or pool? You're in Florida. Which one
What
are
do
you
you
picking?
think?
What do I think?
You think the answer should be neither, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, baseball field, right?
Dirt guy.
I got to tell you, I get up in the dark and I get home in the dark. If there's a beach around here, and I think I had a pool in the backyard one time, and I didn't know it was there the last few days of camp. So I'm probably the wrong guy. If the bed is okay, it doesn't matter about the curtains because it's dark. If the shower works, I shower at the ballpark. I don't need a whole lot, guys, but it's beautiful. Nowadays they feed you. It's a special time, and I love the spring. And then the reality opens up. We open up in Miami this year, so it's going to be a
Yeah.
nice short trip.
This team, especially we've put together this year, has a very strong mix of veterans and younger players. Some of the younger players we've touched on, but what is the role of the veteran player in spring training, in terms of bringing people along?
Well, I'm not into hazing. I never have understood that rookie stuff. It's just stupid. And
Yeah.
I just, if the guy's wearing your uniform and your colors, make his path easier. Now, hey, listen, there's some rookies that might need a little tweaking here and there. They're a little ahead of themselves, and we've got the guys to do that, but not in a mean way. We're just trying to make, I've stepped on my tail a lot. I just want you not to make the same mistakes I did. That's the type of veteran I want, and our guys are like that. They're very, very welcoming of anybody that can help us win. And they've all been there. We've all been a rookie at some time in our life. And what's that thing you may not remember a lot, but you always remember how somebody made you feel? And that's very true. So I got to tell you guys, one of my pet peeves, I don't tolerate any of that rookie hazing stuff. Life's too short.
There's a lot of players from different countries, from different walks of life, different age groups. How do you find a way to connect with all these guys and make the team feel like a family more so?
Well, we've got 10 countries represented now in our locker room. One thing we do, we put the flags up alphabetical. We just finished them because we had to add some. And so when they come in, we know that we're thinking about them. I used to have a big country map, world map, but hadn't gotten there yet. But just something that whether it's an interpreter or whether it's if you're doing something, make sure that it's in Spanish also. I've been to Dominican, I've been to Puerto Rico, I've been to Venezuela, I've been to Mexico. I've been to Japan and Korea. I know the challenges going to these countries and not speaking the language, to understand the culture, and they're all different. And we're not on this earth alone, thank God. And we don't have all the answers here in America. There's some countries that do things as well, if not better than us. I mean, look at the cars in Japan. They're pretty good. But I don't know. I think we try to make their paths easier and let them know that we've thought through it a little bit about the communication and also the respect for where they came from.
This will be the last question. One of the last questions. Just Buck, thank you again for taking the time. But this offseason, you were honored for the fourth time.
Hey, understand nobody's that busy. I love how people act like they're so, oh, this is killing me. I'm so busy and taking the time. When somebody gives you that line, don't buy it, okay? Nobody's that busy.
I'm sorry, but I mean, it's the fact that with the fact that we're here, we're talking to you. It's a great thing. Great to share this little conversation with the fans. But you were honored the season as Manager of the Year, fourth time in your career. That puts you in rarefied air. Steve Cohen delivered you that award at the baseball ceremony. I think that was about last month now. How's it feel to have the recognition for what you've done?
Well, I should have given the award to Steve and handed it over to him because what he and he allowed us to do. That's such an organizational award. It is. It starts out being to the team that surprised the most because they go, well, something had to be different because we didn't predict them to win 101 games or whatever it was. So it had to be the manager, which is crazy. The players allow you those. That's a player award. I mean, I know Terry Francona and I were talking about it that night, and so it's almost a little not embarrassing, but it's a little bit. It makes you feel very humble about it because it's a reflection on the fans, the team, the organization. So I'm planning on kind of displaying that where the team and everybody can see it because it should have their name on it. It should say New York Mets, not my name.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's a fantastic answer. Buck, thank you so much. Again, I know you said everybody has time, but thank you for your time. We really do appreciate it. And hopefully we'll be able to talk to you again soon and maybe see you in Port St. Lucie in a couple weeks.
How's the weather there?
In New
Great
York?
Today. Yeah, about 60 baseball weather today.
Yeah.
Okay, you're in charge of the weather when we get home.
Okay.
Got you.
Okay. We can handle that.
We'll alternate our days.
All right. We have bad weather opening day. I'm coming to see you guys. All right.
Please,
Sounds like a
I'll
plan.
welcome it.